You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowed like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look up better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper than again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the fourth part of What If Naruto Meets Ranma. Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of KFB Anime 87 on fanfiction.net. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. It was the next day with Naruto, as he and Ranma, along with Akane and Nabiki were making their way to the Chinese circus. Something of note though, was that Ranma was in his girl form, after catching a stray hit from a child's water pistol. I told you being alert, even while on a date would pay off, cuz, Naruto said with a grin, as they got in line to enter the main tent, while taking out their tickets. This isn't a date. Ranma yelled, as she glared at her cousin. Yeah. If I was gonna go on a date, then Ranma would at least have to be in his girl form, Akane said with a huff at Naruto's teasing. Why though? It's still him, isn't it? Nabiki asked with a raised eyebrow at this. Are you saying you would be okay with dating him, while he's a fox? Akane retorted at this. Heh, that explains the plushie, Ranma said with a snicker. Hey, I told you that in confidence, Akane whispered to Ranma. Wait, say what now? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow, as the vendor took their tickets. Just move it, Whiskers, Nabiki said, as she pushed Naruto into the tent, while glaring at Ranma and Akane, as she made a killing gesture under her neck at them, unseen by Naruto. She's got it bad, Ranma whispered to Akane, as they followed. Yup, Akane said with a nod of agreement. Soon, the two couples found their seats in the stands and they waited for the show to begin, along with the rest of the crowd. So what's your plan, Whiskers? Nabiki asked Naruto curiously. Please don't tell us that you're gonna walk on stage and beat Moose as soon as you see him. Akane asked. Well, that would save time, Naruto said with a smile. Hey, just make sure I get a picture at least, Whiskers, Nabiki said with a smirk, as she took out her phone. Yeah. Oh, and make sure you guys have those umbrellas, like I told you, Naruto said, as he looked at his friends. Don't worry, I brought them. Though I'm still curious why you insisted on this, Akane said, as she took out some umbrellas and handed them out to them. Well, think about it. The flyer said that the main event involves turning a girl into a duck, Naruto said, as he held up said flyer. Oh, for crying out loud. He can't be this stupid, Nabiki said after a few moments of thought. What? Ranma asked in confusion. Cuz, think about it. He's from China and he's gonna use magic to turn someone into a duck, Naruto said, while Akane sighed at this. Oh. He's gonna use cursed spring water on what he thinks is Nabiki, Ranma said, as she snapped her fingers, finally getting it. Keep an eye out for any suspicious ducks, too. My money is on that blind idiot having a curse now, Nabiki said, as she looked around with narrowed eyes. How much are we talking about? Naruto asked with a cocked eyebrow. How about 1,000? Nabiki said with a smirk. Okay, deal, Naruto said, as they shook on it. Question, what happens to someone if they're already cursed? Akane asked curiously. I have no idea and I'm not curious to find out, Naruto said, as he shook his head. As he said this, the lights went down and a spotlight went up, showing what looked like a duck sitting on a stool, wearing a pair of glasses and holding a knife in his bill. Pay up, Whiskers, Nabiki said, as she held out her hand, while Naruto grumbled at this as he paid her. As he paid her, a bunch of chains shot at Naruto from behind and grabbed him, before pulling him out of the stands and onto a target area, before his arms and legs were cuffed down. Naruto. Ranma and Akane yelled in worry at seeing this, while Nabiki counted her money. Hey! A little concern here, gold digger. Naruto yelled out. What? You have this, don't you? Nabiki asked, as she raised an eyebrow at this and looked at Naruto. That's not the point. What, a guy has to be bleeding to get some concern? Naruto yelled at Nabiki, while Moose turned to look at him. Quack. Moose quacked at Naruto, obviously annoyed that Naruto wasn't reacting to his situation and arguing with Nabiki instead. Yeah. Look Moose, can we skip the whole story, where you reveal you tried training at the cursed springs like an idiot and now blame me? Naruto asked. Oh, don't forget the part where he monologues about using the same cursed water to curse you, like a petty moron, Ranma said, as she ate some popcorn. Yeah, try to avoid that. Foxes are cooler, Nabiki said, as she finished counting her money. Hang on, you think I'm cool? Naruto asked, raising an eyebrow at this, ignoring Moose's twitching eyebrow, as he started to turn red from his rage from being ignored. Quack! Moose yelled, as he swung his wings at Naruto, throwing a bunch of knives at him, which hit him. Hey! That's gonna cost you. Nabiki yelled, as she stood up seeing this. Yeah, now I'm annoyed, Naruto said, as he revealed that the knives were now broken, after hitting him thanks to his tekai. Nabiki blinked at this, before she sat back down. Heh, you forgot about his tekai, didn't you? Ranma asked with a grin at the middle tendo. Shut up, Nabiki said, as she looked to the side to hide her blush. Naruto used his Kami-e to quickly escape the cuffs holding him down, before he stood up, getting applause from the crowd. As this was happening, Moose had quickly used a pot of hot water to turn himself human and changed into his clothes, complete with his glasses resting on his forehead, before he came out to look at Naruto, while holding Nabiki's shopping bag and a bucket of water. If you wish for your woman to remain uncursed, then I wouldn't move Uzumaki, Moose said, as he gave Naruto a cold look. I would take you seriously, if you weren't threatening a bag, Naruto said with a flat tone of voice, as he looked at Moose. Put your glasses on, you idiot. Ranma yelled out from her seat. Yeah, I'm right here, dumb butt. Nabiki yelled out. Eh? Moose asked in confusion, as his glasses dropped down, covering his face, before he looked at the bag. What trickery is this? This isn't Uzumaki's woman. Moose yelled, as he looked at the bag. You're not that bright, are you Daffy? Naruto asked with a flat tone of voice. This got laughs from the crowd watching this. I will not be mocked, Uzumaki. Moose yelled, as he threw Nabiki's bag to the ground and stomped on it in a rage. Hey! I paid good money for that. Nabiki yelled. This changes nothing Moose was yelling, before Naruto was already in front of him and slammed his knee into his gut, before he slapped him a few times in the face, before he slammed his palm into his chest, sending the teen flying, along with the bucket of cursed spring water. Hey, watch it cuz. Ranma yelled out, as the bucket flew overhead. I'm on it. Naruto yelled, as he used Shave to appear in front of the bucket and kicked it at the downed Moose, dousing him in the water and turning him into a duck again. Moose quacked a few times, as he removed the bucket from his head, before Naruto grabbed him. We have rules about taking people's property and then damaging it, Donald. Naruto said, as he held Moose by the neck. Yeah, and it's gonna cost you, Nabiki said with a glare at this. Moose glared at this, before he smirked, as he pointed up with his wing. Naruto raised an eyebrow at this, before he looked up, his eyes widening, as he saw what looked like a giant water faucet, which was over the audience. I think he had a backup plan, Ranma said with a scowl. No kidding. Akane yelled in a panic. You'd really turn all these people into ducks, just to get at me? Naruto asked with a scowl. Moose quacked at this, just as the faucet started to turn on. But before it could fire any water, the room started to fill with snow as the faucet started to ice over. What the heck? Naruto asked, as he looked around, surprised at this. Everyone out. We don't know if that will hold. Ranma yelled at the crowd, who all quickly got out and ran out of the tent with them following. That's enough of that. Such a cowardly way to fight, a teen girl with icy blue hair and wearing a kimono said, as she walked out onto the stage. Moose quacked at this, before he yelled, as Naruto slammed him into the dirt and stomped on him. Not that I'm not happy for the help, but who are you? Naruto asked, as he looked at the girl with a raised eyebrow, as Moose crawled away behind some curtains. My apologies. I am new to the area and I saw that there was a circus going on. And while enjoying the performance, I found his cowardly move to involve the audience unacceptable, the girl said, as she bowed her head slightly. Well, thanks for the assist, miss. Naruto said, as he raised an eyebrow at the girl, hoping to get a name. Oh, of course. My name is Oyuki, of the planet Neptune, the girl said. That name sounds familiar, Naruto said, as he rubbed his chin in thought. As he did this, behind him and Oyuki, a now human again Moose came out from behind the curtain, this time holding a giant hose. This time I'll get you, Uzumaki. Moose yelled, as he fired the giant hose at Naruto. SHT. Naruto yelled, as he quickly used Shave and Jeppo to avoid the water. But saw that the water was heading towards Oyuki. Before Oyuki could react, she was grabbed and moved out of the way by Ranma, who was now in his male form and had used Shave to get to her in time, as he scooped her into his arms and avoided the blast of cursed water. What, did you take all the cursed water or something? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. Hold still and turn into a duck. Moose yelled, as he turned to fire at Naruto. But he was stopped, as Naruto sent a Rankyaku at the hose behind him, cutting it and causing the water to blast Moose from behind again, turning him into a duck once more and flooding the area with water. Well, that's just sad, Naruto said, as he landed in the rafters to oversee this. Is it over cuz? Ranma asked, as he landed near the tent exit, where thankfully, the water wasn't reaching. Yeah, I think so. I think Moose is finally out of water. Naruto shouted, as he looked over at his cousin, but paused as he looked at them, before he started to snicker. What? Ranma asked in confusion, before he looked at Oyuki, who was looking at him with a kind smile. Thank you for saving me, sir. What's your name? Oyuki asked, as she hugged Ranma's arm. It's Ranma Satome, Ranma said with a nervous look, at the look this girl was giving him. Well, it looks like you still attract the girls, eh? Oh well, at least she's not as bad as Kodachi, right? Naruto asked with a laugh. Don't you have a fight to finish? Ranma growled, as he looked at his cousin. What fight? That moron lost his glasses in the flood and can't fight now. Oh, and speaking of ducks, you should do so, Naruto said, as he pointed at Moose, who was quaking, while attacking a nearby statue with his hidden blades. Ranma asked, as behind him, as Akane was behind him, with an evil aura around her, after seeing a girl she didn't know hugging Ranma's arm. You pervert! Akane yelled, as she slugged Ranma in the head, sending him into the dirt. Hey, don't punch the man who saved me! Oyuki yelled at Akane. Wait, he did what? Akane asked, as she looked at the new girl. The tomboy meets the new recruit. Aren't you glad you learned Tekai, cuz? Naruto asked, as he approached his cousin with a grin. Yeah, laugh it up, Whiskers. You have a tomboy too. What about Shampoo? Ranma yelled, as he looked at Naruto. She's not really a tomboy. She has more balance than a typical tomboy, Naruto said as she shrugged. So there is room for one in your life, then? Ranma asked with a raised eyebrow. Ha! Like I need the headache, Naruto said with a laugh at this. As this was happening, the top of the tent burst open, as what looked like a teen girl with red hair and wearing chainmail armor, while riding a space bike, rode into the tent through the fresh hole she just made. "There you are, Oyuki. Have you found Lum's guy yet?" the redhead asked with a grin at the ice girl. "Oh, there you are, Benton. Sorry, I haven't found this Naruto yet," Oyuki said, as the space biker landed her bike. Naruto froze at this, before he groaned and slapped his forehead. "Do you have history with them?" Ranma asked curiously. "No, but I now recall Lum mentioning her childhood friends," Naruto said with a nervous tone. "Oh, you're looking for Naruto, are you?" Nabiki asked, as she walked over with a smirk. "Yes, we are. Do you know where he might be?" Oyuki asked curiously. "It's gonna cost you. Though why are you looking for him?" Nabiki asked curiously. "'Cause he bailed on my best friend like a wuss and I want to kick his butt," Benton said with a scowl, as she punched her fist into her hand. Naruto groaned at this, while Ranma snorted in laughter. "Congratulations, you now have a tomboy after you," Ranma said with a grin. "You know, she kinda reminds me of Miss Kushina," Akane said with her own grin. "Hey, don't say that." Naruto yelled in a panic upon hearing this. "Oi, blondie. Do you know Naruto Uzumaki?" Benton yelled, as she approached Naruto. Naruto said, as he thought over his options. "He's Naruto Uzumaki." Moose yelled out, poking his head from behind a curtain, after using hot water to change back to a human. "You sell out." Naruto yelled in a rage, before he was grabbed by Benton. "I knew it. Come here, you wuss." Benton yelled, as she slugged Naruto hard in the gut, sending him flying. "Haha, take that Uzumaki," Moose said with a grin. Before Naruto slammed into him, knocking him out, seeing as Naruto was using his Tekai when Benton hit him. "Geez, I actually felt that." "What the heck are you, woman?" Naruto yelled as he stood up. "I'm from the Fukugen alien clan, blondie." "What the heck are you made of?" "That actually made my knuckles hurt a bit," Benton said, as she rubbed her knuckles a little. "His whole family has this move that makes their body as tough as steel. So the fact he felt that, must mean you are strong," Akane said with a look of surprise. "Oh, is that a fact? Then I'm gonna have to actually try to hurt you." Benton yelled with a grin, as she looked at Naruto. Naruto froze at this and recognized the look in Benton's eyes, as the same one he saw in his mom's, when she was beating up someone who had it coming. So he did the only thing he could think of. "Cheese it!" Naruto yelled, as he took off into the air with his Jeppo, jumping out of the hole in the tent. "Hey! Get back here, Uzumaki!" Benton yelled, as she ran to her bike and started it, before taking off after him. She's not really gonna hurt him, is she?" Ranma asked Oyuki with a curious look. "Oh, not at all. Not if he's a worthy warrior," Oyuki said, as she shook her head at this. "Whiskers will be fine then," Nabiki said, as she nodded at this. "Now Ranma, seeing as I'm new to Earth, why don't you show me around a bit?" Oyuki asked, as she grabbed Ranma's arm and led him out of the tent. Akane's eyebrows started to twitch, as she watched this happen. "Feeling a little jealous?" Nabiki asked Akane with a smirk. "What about you?" "Naruto is being chased by a girl, who is strong enough to keep up and will most likely win over his mother," Akane asked, as she looked at her sister in annoyance. "Please, Whiskers is more scared for his life, that she's like a mini version of his mom," Nabiki said, as she waved her hand dismissively. "Yeah, and if he has a thing for redheads like his dad?" Akane asked curiously, as Kushina had told the two of them about that before, while they were at the restaurant. Nabiki paused at this, before her eyes narrowed slightly, as she heard Naruto yelling as he was being chased by Benton. Later. It was hours later and Benton was flying over the town on her motorcycle, trying to find any sign of Naruto / DM it, he gave me the slip. I didn't think an earthling could be that slippery. Benton said with an excited smile, despite her words. As she looked around for Naruto, she noticed Lum flying overhead nearby. I can't believe my darling went off with that Nabiki without me, Lum said with a growl, as her hair slightly sparked, as she thought about the middle Tendo daughter. Hey Lum! There you are! Benton yelled, as she drove her bike over towards Lum and parked it onto a rooftop near the alien girl. Huh? Oh, hi Benton. Lum said with a smile at her fellow alien, who she flew over to greet her with a huh. Hey, how have you been? Benton asked with a smile at her friend. I have been fine. I finally found my darling again, though there are a few problems, Lum said, as she thought about Nabiki and Shampoo. Oh yeah, I met your man. Why didn't you tell me he could take a punch? Benton asked with a grin. Lum paused at this, before she looked at Benton. Why would that matter? She asked curiously. Oh, come on Lum. You know how hard it is for women from my clan, to find guys who can actually take a punch. Benton said with an excited smile. Lum fell over into a face plant at this, as she indeed knew this. So, do you have any idea where he is? I want to see if he can actually fight, Benton said with a grin. Well, if he's not at home, then he's most likely either at his mother's restaurant or with this other girl, who I can't stand, Lum said with a growl, as she thought about Nabiki. This guy is seeing other girls? Benton asked as she raised an eyebrow at this, before she punched a power pole next to her, breaking it. Apparently, it's an arranged marriage. Hey, where are you going? Lum was saying, before she noticed Benton was running off. I'm gonna take care of this other woman for ya. Benton said with a grin, as she jumped onto her motorcycle and took off. Oh, hey, wait a minute. Lum said before realizing what Benton had said and that Naruto would most likely not be happy with Naruto. Meanwhile, Naruto was at the rising tide and had just told Kushina and Nodoka what had happened back at the circus and Gahahahahaha. Kushina laughed, as she slammed her fist on the counter. It's not funny, woman. Naruto yelled loudly. I respectfully disagree. Kushina said with a smile, as she wiped a tear from her eyes. I have to say that I agree. You fled from a girl, just because she reminded you of your mother. I find that most funny, Nodoka said with a smile. She actually slugged me when I had Tekai active and actually made me feel it a bit. Throw in the fact she's a redhead and she screams bad news, Naruto grumbled. Oh, I like her even more now, Kushina said with a smirk. All she needs is a motorcycle and she's a ringer for you, Kushi, Nodoka said with a smile. She did, Naruto said with a groan, as he slammed his head onto the counter. Gahahahahaha. Kushina laughed loudly, as she fell onto the floor, as she rolled around while laughing. As this was happening, the phone rang, which Nodoka answered. Hello, the rising tide. We deliver in 20 minutes or it's half price, she said. Oi. I didn't approve of that. Kushina yelled, as she stood up. Save it for later. Send Whiskers over ASAP, oi. Watch it, you maniac. Nabiki yelled over the phone, as a crash was heard. Why do you want Naruto, Nabiki? Nodoka asked curiously. She probably wants her stuffed kitsune from Moose back, Kushina said with a smirk. WW what? Naruto stuttered out, as he blushed at this reveal. That crazy biker chick is here at my house, trying to attack me, DMN it. Nabiki yelled over the phone, before a crash was heard and the phone went dead. OSHT looks like she's more like me than I thought, huh brat? Kushina asked, before she looked at where Naruto had been standing, before she saw that the door to the restaurant had been destroyed, as Naruto ran through it in a rush. He ran before the phone went dead, Minato said, as he poked his head from the kitchen. DMN, he's got it bad for Son's kid, Kushina said with a smirk at this. How much teasing are you gonna give him? Nodoka asked with a raised eyebrow. Oh, I'm gonna make him miserable. Speaking of which, hey babe. We better get over there and help the brat avoid a funeral. Kushina yelled, as she took off her apron and headed for the door. Yes dear, Minato said, as he came out of the kitchen and followed after his wife. I'll hold down the fort then, Nodoka said with a sigh, as she went back to work. Meanwhile, in the back of the restaurant, what looked like a small old man was sitting at a table, eating bowl after bowl of food with gusto. With Nabiki. Meanwhile, back with Nabiki, she was hiding behind a table, as Benton smashed her fists through it to get to her. You are pathetic. You're the one giving Lum problems. You can't even fight. Benton yelled with a smirk, as she looked down at Nabiki. Hey, not all of us are space gorillas. Nabiki yelled, as she glared at the space biker. Who are you calling a gorilla? Benton yelled, as she raised her fist in the air, ready to attack. Before Naruto smashed through the wall, getting the attention of Nabiki and Benton. Ah, there you are Whiskers. Now, we can see how good you are in an actual fight Benton was saying with a smirk, before Naruto was already in front of her, his eyes red and fist raised before. Smash! His fist slammed into Benton's face, sending her bursting out the back door of the Tendo household, through the back gate and into the alleyway. Whiskers? Nabiki asked, blinking in surprise at this, before Naruto turned to look at her. Are you okay, Nabiki? Naruto asked, as he approached her and checked her for any wounds. Nabiki blushed at this, before she shook her head and slapped his hands. I'm fine, Whiskers. I'm just surprised that you just went straight to kicking her butt, like a thug. I didn't think you cared that much, she said with a smirk, as she put on her confident front. Well, yeah. You never call for help, so that made me worried, Naruto said, as he rubbed the back of his head. Thanks Naruto. But don't expect a thank you kiss, Nabiki said after a few moments of silence, before she smiled a little. Naruto? Now who's going soft, eh? Naruto asked with a grin. Nabiki blushed a little at this, but said nothing, as she quickly composed herself. What in the world happened here? Kasumi asked in shock as she, Son and Akane arrived and looked around. Would you believe a space biker friend of Lum's tried to beat me up and Whiskers saved me? Nabiki asked. Hey, what happened to calling me by my name? Naruto asked with a cocked eyebrow. You don't have proof of that, Nabiki said, as she left the room. Naruto made a mocking face at this, before he lightly smirked after Nabiki, as he watched her leave. And that's my new wallpaper, Kushina said, as she poked her head around the corner of the back entrance of the house, holding up her phone, with Minato right beside her. Drop it woman! Naruto yelled, as he turned to look at his mother with a blush on his face. Nah, I don't think I will, Kushina said with a smirk. Wow, you really let that biker girl have it, son, Minato said, as he saw the damage Naruto had done after slugging Benton. Yeah. What did you do? Slug her with a Tekai punch? Kushina asked, as she looked through the hole through the backyard wall and saw several holes behind it. DMN straight, Naruto said, as he crossed his arms. Kushina blinked at this, before she smirked. Ah, my baby was worried about his fiancé, she said, as she pinched Naruto's cheek. Oh my. You must really care, if you hit someone that hard, Kasumi said, as she looked at the damage done. I'll make sure that Nabiki's future wedding dress fits her, Son said. Naruto groaned at this, as he knew he would never live this one down. Kushina laughed at this, before she felt her phone buzz and saw it was Nodoka calling. Yeah, what is it sis? What do you mean some old coot left an IOU and bailed on the bill, she yelled loudly, as her hair started to move behind her. Oh geez. Someone better call the morgue, Naruto said, as he groaned at this along with Minato. With Benton. Meanwhile with Benton, she was halfway across town and laying in the street, where she had landed after Naruto had slugged her. She was just looking up at the sky, with a bruise on her face. What is this feeling in my chest? Why do I want to fight him again, but not in the same way. Benton thought, as she started to blush, as she thought about Naruto. She then smiled, before she jumped to her feet. Naruto Uzumaki, eh? Now that's a real man, she said with a genuine smile, before she looked thoughtful. I wonder if Lum is up to sharing him with me, she mused to herself. As she did this, what looked like a teen boy with a giant spatula on their back walked past her, before looking at the biker chick with a raised eyebrow, before he continued on his way. With Naruto. It had been a few days since the encounter with Benton, and currently, Naruto was outside the school eating his lunch while sitting on a tree branch along with Ranma, who was telling Naruto about what had been going on at the Tendos lately. So Uncle Fat Butt and Mr. Tendo have been acting weird. You do realize that qualifies as a normal day for us, right? Naruto asked, as he took a bite of a pork bun. I mean more than normal, if you can believe it, Ranma said, as he also took a bite of a pork bun. It can't be as bad as what Kaa-san has been up to, Naruto said with a sigh. What? Did she teach Nabiki how to glare at you like her? Ranma asked with a snicker. Ha! Funny. No, she's been on the warpath looking for some old guy, who dined and dashed. She's been tracking him down and questioning anyone she can get her hands on. Naruto fake laughed, before he explained what had been going on lately. Did she happen to get a good look at him? Ranma asked curiously. No, but Auntie Nodaka did say he was small with wrinkles, like Shampoo's grandma. Why do you ask? Naruto asked curiously. Ranma simply pointed, causing Naruto to look and see that nearby a bunch of schoolgirls were screaming, as they chased what looked like a small old man, who was carrying a large bag on his back. What a haul! What a haul! The old man laughed, as he ran away from the yelling schoolgirls. What do you suppose the girls are chasing him for? Ranma asked. Nothing good, considering Akane is leading them, while waving a wooden sword, Naruto said, as he pointed out Akane. Get back here, panty thief! Akane yelled, as she took swings at the old man's back with the wooden sword, but he easily dodged the attacks. This got looks of surprise from Ranma and a flat look from Naruto. Looks like I owe Grandpa an apology, Naruto said with a sigh, as he stood up just as the old man made his way towards their tree. You have a grandpa? Ranma asked with a cocked eyebrow, as he too stood up. Dad's side of the family. But for now, let's deal with this guy, Naruto said, as the old man ran underneath the tree branch they were standing on. I'm right behind you, Ranma said with a nod, as Naruto dropped down towards the old man, with him close behind. What a haul dash, the old man was saying happily, before Naruto landed on his head, slamming him into the dirt, while Ranma took his makeshift backpack, revealing it was full of women's underwear. Stealing panties and bras? How pathetic can you get? Ranma asked, as he shook his head at this. Maybe he's gone senile in his old age, Naruto said with a grin, as he and Ranma turned to Akane and the approaching teen girls. Is that any way to treat your elders? The old man yelled, as he stood up out of the dirt. I only treat those that deserve it, old man, Naruto said, as he rolled his eyes. Well, I definitely deserve it. I am a great martial arts MSTR, the old man yelled out. Really? 'Cause you look more like that grilled with the ring from that movie, Nabiki said, as she approached to see what was going on. PFFFFFT. Naruto said, as he snorted in laughter, getting a smirk from Nabiki. I am the great Happosai of the School of Anything Goes Martial Arts, the old man yelled. Ha, that's my old man's school, Ranma said, as he raised an eyebrow at this. Mine too, Akane said, as she looked at the old man curiously. You two aren't Son and Genma's kids, are you? Happosai asked, as he looked at Akane and Ranma with interest. Sadly, yes, Ranma said with a sigh at this. How do you know our dads? Akane asked. I should know them, as I trained them myself. I was their MSTR. I taught them everything they know. Happosai said with a smile of pride. So are you why Uncle Fat but is a coward and fights like a coward? Naruto asked casually, as he leaned against the tree. This caused Happosai to face plant into the dirt. Not that this wasn't interesting Akane was saying, before she was cut off. It wasn't, Naruto said, as he dug into his ear with his pinky finger, before flicking the earwax off. Ditto, Ranma said, as he nodded in agreement. Whatever. Prepare to pay for stealing our underwear. Akane yelled, as she raised her wooden sword to attack the old man. Smoke bomb. Happosai yelled, as he took out a smoke bomb and threw it onto the ground, filling the area with smoke, covering his escape. When I find you, I'm gonna beat you black and blue. Akane yelled out, as she looked around the area, as the smoke cleared. Get in line. I think that guy was the dine and dasher that Miss Kushina has been on the hunt for and she has dibs, Nabaki said, as she had been trying to find information for her, but was having very little success. Maybe she'll let you help her punish him, Naruto said to Akane with a grin, as the other girls walked off, talking amongst themselves. Good idea, Akane said with an evil smile, as a dark aura appeared around her. Note to self, avoid Akane until she is done with that old freak, Ranma said, as he made a mental note. Punk, Naruto and Nabaki said together with slight smirks at this, while Ranma slightly pouted at being called out. Later at the rising tide. Naruto and Ranma walked into the restaurant and saw Naruto's mother talking to Akane and Nabiki. So Panda Boy and your old man's MSTR is in town, eh? Kushina asked Akane curiously, as she handed a customer a bag of takeout. Yeah, and he's interesting, Akane said, trying to think up a good way to tell Kushina the situation. That's what we're calling a pervert now? Naruto asked as he approached them. Pervert? Kushina asked, as she paused at this. Yeah. That old freak was stealing a bunch of the girls' underwear, before we stopped him and he ran off, Ranma said, as he gave his order to Nodaka. Kushina growled at this, causing several customers to back up a bit. Oh, and not to mention he's the one that dined and dashed your restaurant, Nabiki said with a casual tone. When I find that old man who dined, I'm gonna shove something where the sun doesn't shine. Kushina growled out, as her hair started to wave behind her. Did I mention that he's staying with my dad now? Nabaki asked with a coy smile. And you're now my favorite of my brat's possible fiancés. Kushina yelled, as she made her way to the door, before kicking it down and leaving the restaurant. Naruto sputtered in surprise at this, while Nabiki smirked at her victory. With Lum. Lum was in her spaceship, looking over some of her equipment, before she froze and started to growl, as she suddenly had an urge to attack Nabiki. With Shampoo. Meanwhile with Shampoo, she was making a food delivery on her bike for Kushina, when she froze and scowled. Urge to kill Nabiki rising, Shampoo thought, as she growled angrily. With Benton. With Benton, she was on the outskirts of town, doing some light training by splitting boulders by chopping them with her hands, before she froze and growled in anger, before she slugged a boulder and made it explode in a shower of pebbles. Back at the restaurant. Oh boy, what set her off this time? Minato asked, as he poked his head round the corner from the kitchen. She found out who the old man is that dined and dashed on her, Nodoka said, as she took Naruto's order. Yup. Hey, do either of you know the name Happosai? Naruto asked them curiously. Minato froze at this, before he looked at Naruto. Why do you ask? He asked, some dread in his voice. 'Cause that's who dined and dashed and is staying with the Tendos, Ranma said, as Nodoka brought him and Naruto their food. Oh Kami, Minato said with a groan, as he slapped his forehead. What is it? Nabiki asked curiously. When we were teens and were on our world tour, me and Kushina had an encounter with him, Minato said with a sigh. And I assume he was a pervert back then? Akane asked with a scowl. He stole her underwear and took off. I think they are still telling stories about her rampage in that part of China, Minato said with a wince at the memory. This got silence from the teens for a few moments. Okay Whiskers, make that food to go. I don't want to miss your mom going nuts on him, Nabiki said, as she turned to Naruto. You think the house will still be standing after she's done with him? Akane asked, as they all headed for the door. Have you met my mom? She could make even Godzilla flinch, Naruto said with a smirk, as Nabiki laughed at this. Tendo household. A bit later at the Tendo household, the 4 teens, which included Ranma in his female form thanks to a passing biker splashing him with a puddle, were approaching the house and just when they touched the door. Okay but, you better have my money or I'm gonna, the FIS this? Kushina was heard saying, before she shouted and crashing was heard inside the dojo. Well, it looks like we made it in time for the show, Naruto said, as they all went inside. You think our dads will help the old man? Ranma asked Akane curiously. As they said this, they opened the door to the dining room and saw Genma and Son hiding behind an overturned table, as Kushina attacked Happosai with her hair in the backyard. Stand still, you little freak. Kushina yelled, as her hair tried to grab the old man. What's your problem, Toots? Happosai asked, as he easily dodged around Kushina's strikes. Oh. So you don't remember taking my underwear in China years ago, Kushina asked with a hard scowl. Not exactly narrowing it down, Happosai said with a shrug. Gah. Hold still, so I can rip you in half and feed you to starving cats. Kushina screeched in a rage, as she continued her attacks. This caused Naruto, Ranma and Akane to turn green from Kushina's words, while Nabiki was busy taking notes. Okay, I'm done, Happosai said, as he blocked Kushina's strike with his pipe. Naruto and Ranma yelled out, surprised at this. He actually blocked Miss Kushina's attack. Akane asked in surprise. Looks like he's more than an old pervert, Nabiki said with a curious tone. What the hell? Kushina yelled, as she was sent flying out of the backyard by Happosai. Please tell me you got footage of that, Naruto said to Nabiki. Yeah, why? Nabiki asked, as she held her phone. Because my mom never loses and I want to savor this, Naruto said with a happy smile. Gahahaha. Not bad for some crazy woman. Now Son, Genma, about what you did back in China, Happosai laughed happily, before he turned to look at the 2 older martial artists. This caused Son and Genma to stiffen up in fear, before they started to cower and bow their heads to the old man. And here I thought they couldn't get more pathetic, Ranma said with a shake of her head. You still had hope? Naruto asked curiously. Now you two, I'm not here to torture you. See, I'm getting on in years and it's time for me to train an heir for the school of anything goes martial arts, Happosai said, as he sat down and loaded up his pipe. Genma and Son looked up in fear at this, before Genma ran behind Ranma. Here's your heir, Mstr. Perfect for you to mold as you see fit. Genma said, as he pushed Ranma forward. Hey, what's the big idea? Ranma yelled at her father. Obviously the fat but is throwing you under the bus, Naruto said with a scoff at his uncle's cowardly move. How could you, Genma? Such a cute young thing couldn't survive the training. Happosai yelled, before he jumped onto Ranma's chest and started to motorboat her chest. Ranma screamed in shock at this, as she shuddered in disgust. Before Akane splashed her and the old man with water. Nice save Akane, Naruto said with a thumbs up to the youngest Tendo. You ouch. That's hot. Happosai yelled, as he jumped off Ranma onto the ground, before he blinked in surprise, as he looked at the now male Ranma, who was glaring daggers at him. As you can see Mstr, he's a boy some of the time, Genma said with a smile at the old man. What the heck you freak? What are you doing grabbing my chest like that? Ranma yelled, as he threw a punch at the old man. Who promptly blocked with his pipe, before uppercutting him in the chin, sending him flying into the air. A boy, eh? Well, that changes things then. So I suppose he will do, Happosai said, as he sat down and smoked from his pipe, while Ranma slammed onto the dirt. He is good, Naruto said with an annoyed tone, as he watched the old man. The next day. It was the next day and Naruto was making his way to school. Darling! Lum yelled, as she hugged Naruto from behind, surprising him. Gah! Lum, don't do that. Naruto yelled in surprise at this. We haven't spent time together in a while and I miss you, Lum said with a pout at this. Naruto sighed at this as he heard a bicycle bell, before Shampoo crashed into him, which did nothing thanks to his tekai. Leave Shampoo's love alone. Shampoo yelled at Lum, as she glared at the alien girl. Don't you have a DLVRY to make? Lum asked with an annoyed tone, as she glared at Shampoo. Look, as fun as it would be to watch you two fight over nothing Naruto was saying, before he was cut off. It's not nothing. Lum yelled at this. Naruto always important to fight over, Shampoo said with a nod at this. Whatever. Look, I need to get to school before the bell goes off. So can we do this later? You two can contribute to my therapy bill later, Naruto said, as he got loose from Lum's hug and ran off. Lum pouted at this, obviously not happy with Naruto dismissing her. What that mean? Shampoo asked Lum curiously. Lum ignored this, before she flew after Naruto, as she wasn't going to give up. Ayaya. You know, go after Naruto alone. Shampoo yelled, as she took off after Lum on her bike. Back with Naruto, he was running across the rooftops and as he approached the front of the high school, he spotted what looked like a crowd of schoolgirls, who seemed to be yelling, while Happosai jumped around them as he greeted them in his own way. Oh great, the freak is here, Naruto said with a scowl, as he approached Ranma, Akane and Nabiki. I'm afraid so, Whiskers, Nabiki said with a sigh. That freak has been driving me crazy, trying to splash me with cold water, just so he can mess with my girl side, Ranma growled out. I take it that your dad told him about your cursed form? Naruto asked. He figured it out pretty quickly, after Akane splashed me with hot water, Ranma said with a pointed look at his fiancée. See if I help you next time, Akane said with an annoyed tone at this. Wow. I knew you had the Uzumaki stomach, but both feet? Naruto asked Ranma, as Akane walked away from them. Nabiki snorted in laughter while Ranma face planted at this. Darling! Lum yelled, as she flew towards them, before. Woo-hoo! What a looker this one is! Happosai yelled out, as he jumped past Lum, snatching her bikini off with a laugh. This got looks of shock from everyone there, before the male students started to cheer. VOICEOVER! Lum yelled as she covered her chest, as her hair started to spark, while she glared at Happosai. Oh geez, Naruto said with a shake of his head, as storm clouds started to form in the sky. The weatherman didn't say anything about a storm, Happosai said, as he looked up in the sky, while holding Lum's bikini on his head like a hat. Die! Lum screeched, as she unleashed a massive torrent of lighting down on the old man, engulfing and shocking him. Gah! Happosai yelled as he was electrocuted. Soon the lighting stopped and the sky cleared, as Happosai laid on the ground, charred black and still holding Lum's bikini, which was unharmed. Give me that! Lum yelled, as she grabbed her bikini from the old man and put it back on. Am I precious, Gah? Happosai groaned out, before Lum stomped on his head with her boot, after she put her bikini back on. Is he alive? Nabiki asked, as she picked up a stick and poked him with it. Looks like the old man isn't invincible after all, Ranma said with a smirk at the fact that Happosai had been defeated. And by one of the non-fighters, no less. That's gotta hurt the old pride, old man? Naruto asked with a grin. Happosai groaned at this, as he slowly stood up. How dare you do this to, Gah, he was yelling, before the front wheel of Shampoo's bike smashed into the back of his head, shoving him into the dirt once again. What go on? Why Oni girl cause storm? Shampoo asked curiously, as she looked around. That's why, Naruto said, as he pointed at Happosai. Aiya. Oni girl attack gremlin? Shampoo asked curiously, as she picked at Happosai. This caused Naruto, Nabiki, Akane and Ranma to snort in laughter. Normally I would call you stupid, but after what he did, I'll give you a pass. Plus, he does look like a gremlin, Lum said with an annoyed tone, as she glared at Happosai. What gremlin do? Shampoo asked curiously, as she looked at the others. He's been harassing women since he got here, including Ranma. And when he snatched Lum's bikini top, well. Naruto said, as he pointed at the sky for emphasis. Ha. Old pervert get what deserves, Shampoo said with a nod. Who are you calling a pervert? Happosai groaned, as he struggled back to his feet. If you're not a pervert, then what are you? Naruto asked, as he crossed his arms with a raised eyebrow. A freak? Ranma asked, deciding to get an insult in. A halfling looking for his precious? Nabiki asked, deciding to get in on the fun. Pfft, okay, you win best insult, Naruto said as he laughed at this, along with some of the other students. Growling, you think you're so smart? Then let's see you take on the pinnacle of the anything goes school of martial arts. Happosai growled out, before his body was engulfed with what looked like a blue aura, which formed what looked like a demon behind him. This caused Ranma, Naruto, and Shampoo to freeze and start to sweat nervously, as they could tell how strong Happosai was now. Hey freak! Kushina yelled, as she made her presence known to them all, as she slowly walked up the street towards them. What do you want, pretty lady? Happosai asked as he looked at Kushina, dropping his battle aura and causing Ranma, Naruto, and Shampoo to start breathing again. You're threatening my kid and nephew? Well, I'm ready for you this time. Kushina yelled, as she glared at the old man, before her fists turned black and what felt like a sudden pressure was sent at the old man. What the heck is, GAH? Happosai gasped out, before he was slugged in the face by Kushina, sending him flying like a shooting star in the sky. F pervert, making me have to use our school's best moves, Kushina growled out, as her fists turned back to normal. Okay, what the heck was that? Naruto asked curiously, as he had never seen his mother use this move before. Yeah auntie, don't hold back. What was that move? Ranma asked with a cocked eyebrow. Never you two mind, you're nowhere near ready for this. Now get going to school, Kushina said, as she pointed at the school. Gah! We're late. Naruto yelled in realization, as he ran towards the school. Nice job, Whiskers. Nabiki yelled, as she ran after him, along with Ranma and Akane. Kushina sighed at this, as she left the school with Shampoo and Lum close behind. Aiya. To see ancient technique of hockey is most great honor, Shampoo said with awe in her voice, as she followed Kushina. Hockey? Lum asked curiously, as she raised an eyebrow at this, as she followed after Shampoo and Kushina. Later in class Naruto, Ranma and Akane were sitting in class and thankfully, the two boys had made it just in time, so they didn't get in trouble. Okay everyone, we have a new student today, the teacher said to everyone, as they all quieted down, as the new student approached the front of the class, where a giant skillet was standing. The new student was a young teen girl, with long brown hair and was wearing a boy's uniform. My name is Ukyo Kwanji, an expert chef and my specialty is Okonomiyaki, the new student said, as they introduced themselves, while pouring some batter on the giant skillet, before expertly flipping them, sending them flying to each of the students. Okonomiyaki? Not bad, Naruto said, as he took a bite of his Japanese pizza, before he smiled at the taste. Looks like your mom has some competition, Akane said with a grin at this. Yuakan. Ranma stuttered out, as he looked at the new student in surprise. Yukio's eyes narrowed at this, as they met Ranma's, obviously not happy with seeing the pig-tailed boy. Oh, this will go well, Naruto said with a sigh at this. With Naruto. It was now lunchtime and Naruto was outside the school, in his usual spot in his tree, eating alone. I wonder what's keeping Ranma, Naruto thought to himself, as he ate his rice ball. As he ate his rice ball, he took note of Ranma coming out of the school, before he was approached by Ukyo, who looked upset, as she pulled her spatula off her back. That's right, she. Naruto had figured out that Ukyo was a girl pretty quickly, thanks to being observant of the obvious clues, like her having no Adam's apple and how she walked. I wonder if Cuz has figured it out yet, Naruto thought to himself, as he chuckled at this, before he saw that Ukyo had started to attack Ranma, which caused him to sigh, before he jumped down from his tree branch to see what's going on. What's going on here? Naruto asked, as he walked towards them. I have no idea. Yukin just started attacking me, Ranma yelled out, as he ducked to avoid the spatula. Don't call me that. Ukyo yelled, as she swung her spatula at Ranma, who easily avoided her swings. Why not? I always called you that, when we were kids. You didn't seem to mind then, Ranma said. Wait, you guys were friends as kids? Akane asked, as she approached to see what was going on. Oh, sure. When me and Pop stopped in her neighborhood for a bit, me and Yukin always spared and he and his dad always fed me from their family's Okonomiyaki cart. Thanks to them, I never went hungry, Ranma said, as he smiled, as he reminisced a bit. You freeloaded off me, after beating me every day. Ukyo yelled in frustration, as she continued to attack Ranma, who kept dodging. Sounds about right, Akane said with a flat tone of voice. Hey, what did you call him as a kid? I want some blackmail on him, Nabiki said with a grin, as she walked over. I'm not here to make friends. I'm here for revenge against him and his dad. Ukyo yelled. Why? What did Ranma and or Uncle Fat Butt do? Naruto asked curiously. Wait, Uncle. Ukyo was yelling, before she noticed what Naruto said. Oh, my apologies. Naruto Uzumaki, cousin to Ranma. Nice to meet ya, Naruto said with a wave. Wait, are you the reason Pop came home beat up last night? I thought Auntie just gave him the business again, Ranma said, as he looked at Ukyo. Yeah, that was me. He took our Okonomiyaki stand. Ukyo yelled in a rage. Oh geez, Naruto said, as he shook his head at this. I didn't steal it. It was given to me by Ukyo's father. Genma yelled, as he poked his head out of a nearby bush, revealing himself. Before he was tackled by Ukyo, who proceeded to beat him up. Is anyone gonna help him? Nabiki asked curiously. No, please, stop. Don't hit him, Ranma said flatly, as he begged Ukyo to stop hitting Genma. Naruto raised an eyebrow as he looked at Nabiki, surprised that she hadn't caught on about Ukyo, before he smirked at this, seeing an opportunity. After beating the heck out of Genma, Ukyo left him in a heap on the ground. Feel better now? Naruto asked curiously. No. I challenge you to a fight, Ranma. Ukyo yelled, as she aimed her spatula at Ranma. Why me? Why not him? Ranma asked in shock, as he gestured to his father. Because you're part of this too, Sotome. We will fight after school tomorrow, and if you're a real man, you will show up. Ukyo yelled, as she left the school. Jeez. What did you do, Ranma? Akane asked, as she looked at Ukyo, as she left. I didn't do anything. Ranma said with a look of confusion. Yeah. I'm gonna guess Uncle Fat Butt is holding back on key details, Naruto said, as he gave the knocked-out Genma a look. Well, while you have Miss Kushina or Nodoka questioning him, I'm gonna start taking bets on the upcoming fight, Nabiki said with a grin, as she walked over to her friends. So they could start working on the odds for said match. Naruto shook his head at this, as he started to make his own plans for said match. Okay Pops, let's go. We're heading to Auntie's restaurant, so she and Mom can make you talk, Ranma said, as he grabbed Genma by his feet and started to drag him away. Gah! You can't do this. I'm innocent. Genma yelled, as he clawed at the ground in vain, to try and stop his son from dragging him away. Yeah, and the gold digger has ethics, ow. Naruto was saying, before a book nailed him in the back of the head. Watch yourself, Whiskers, Nabiki said with a light glare, as she walked away with her friends, who were giggling at this. Naruto grumbled at this, while Akane and Ranma laughed at him. The next day. It was now the next day after, and many people were showing up outside school to see the fight, after word had spread about it. I take it that you're the one who told everyone about this fight, Naruto said, as he looked at Nabiki, who was sitting at a betting booth with her friends taking students' bets. Nabiki had a look of fake shook at this, with her hand on her chest. Who, me? Who do you take me for? She asked. So if I wanted to make a bet, you wouldn't take it. Such a disappointment, Naruto said with a sigh, as he turned to walk away from Nabiki. Get back here, Nabiki said with a firm tone, as she narrowed her eyes, as she wasn't going to risk losing out on a bet. So forceful, Naruto said with a snicker, as he approached the betting booth. Who are you betting on, Whiskers? Nabiki asked, ignoring his teasing. I bet that the fight will end without a clear winner, Naruto said firmly, as he looked at his fiancée. Nabiki raised an eyebrow at this, as her friends looked at her, waiting for her answer. What? Are you scared? Naruto asked with a confident smirk, as he held out the cash for his bet to tempt Nabiki. Please, easiest money I ever made, Nabiki said, before she snatched the money from Naruto, as one of her friends gave Naruto his betting ticket. Sucker, Naruto thought, as he walked away from the betting booth and towards Akane, who had a front row seat of the battle arena, which was black around the edges, with a white square in the middle. Are you ready to fight, Ranma? Akane asked the pigtailed martial artist, who was doing some stretches in the arena. Yeah, this won't take long, Ranma said with a sigh. Not looking to fight an old friend, huh? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow. Well, yeah. I don't see why I should have to fight, because Pops did something stupid like always, Ranma said with a sigh. Oi. This how you show respect to your father? Genma yelled, as he jumped out of a bush. Before he was splashed with a bucket of water by Naruto, turning him into a panda. Respect is earned, Uncle Fat Ass, Naruto said, as he threw the now empty bucket at Genma, hitting him on the head. Don't take him lightly, Ranma. Ukyo looks like he wants to hurt you, Akane said. Be wary, young grasshopper. Your opponent is strong, Naruto said in an old man's voice. Oh, relax, I have this. Auntie has been running me through the ringer lately, Ranma said as he shrugged, as he finished his stretching. As he said this, Ukyo finally arrived and jumped into the arena. Let's do this, Sotome. Ukyo yelled, as she took out her giant spatula. Hey, is there a judge for this at all? Naruto asked Akane curiously. Akane pointed inside the arena at what looked like a teen boy in a referee uniform. Start, the referee yelled, as he raised his arm in the air and a gong went off. Ranma took a ready stance, before charging at Ukyo. But before he could reach her, she jumped back and threw what looked like some bags at the ground, which exploded, filling the arena with some white smoke. Flower? Akane asked, recognizing the smoke, thanks to her lessons with Kushina. Ha, now that's an impressive smoke bomb, Naruto said. Ranma scowled at this, as he looked around for Ukyo, before he saw what looked like some mini spatulas coming at him like throwing stars, which he jumped back to avoid, which caused him to land close to the edge of the arena, more specifically, the black part at the end of the arena, which his hand touched after he landed, which sizzled after he touched it. Yow! Ranma yelled, as he jumped and held his burned hand. What the heck kind of arena is this? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow, as he and Akane looked at the arena. Oh. It's a giant griddle. Akane said, as she looked at the arena in realization. And who decided that it would be good to use for this fight? Naruto asked. Must be his style, Akane said, as they watched as Ukyo threw what looked like some noodles around Ranma and started to swing him around the arena. DMN it, Yukin. You're starting to make me mad. Ranma yelled, as he glared at Ukyo, who was swinging him around with her spatula, which had the end of the noodles wrapped around it. Good. Then you can start taking me seriously. Ukyo yelled, as she swung Ranma towards the skillet part of the arena. Ranma scowled at this, before he used Kami-e to make himself more flexible and skinny, so he could escape, before he used Jeppo to kick off towards Ukyo. What? Ukyo yelled in surprise seeing this, before she swung her spatula at Ranma, who just took the hit to the head, causing the spatula to bend, thanks to his tekai. WH. Ukyo yelled in shock, as she looked at her bent spatula. Give me that. Ranma yelled, as he snatched the now bent spatula from her, before he swung it at her, barely missing her, but cutting her shirt slightly. Ukyo scowled at this, as she jumped back and pulled out another flower bomb and threw it down, before running off, as the arena was filled with another smokescreen. You're not getting away. Ranma yelled, as he took off after Ukyo easily, thanks to him using Jeppo. He's coming along pretty well with our techniques, Naruto said with a grin, seeing this. He should be using my techniques, Genma's sign that he was holding up said, as he was still in his panda form. Maybe if you were worth learning from, then he would use them, Naruto said with a scoff at this. Besides, isn't this whole thing with Ukyo your fault? Akane asked, as she gave Genma a flat look. Genma started to sweat at this, as Naruto and Akane glared at him, before he started to play with a beach ball, while holding up a sign that said, "Don't disturb the panda," on it. Yeah, like that will stop me, Naruto said with a scoff, as he took out a steaming hot kettle and threw the water at Genma, turning him back into a human. That's hot, you maniac. Gah. Genma was yelling, before Naruto grabbed him by his head and slammed him into the dirt, then he grabbed his arm and put it behind him. That's hurtful. Do I look like my mom? I'm actually mentally sound, thank you, unlike her, Naruto said with a pout, as he rubbed Genma's face into the dirt. If I was you I would talk, before he decides to actually try to be like his mom, Akane said as he approached. This is him holding back. Genma yelled in a panic. Should I break your arms first or your legs? Naruto said with a mad grin like his mom. Wait. I'll talk. Genma yelled in a panic. Oh look, he can learn, Naruto said with a smirk. With Ranma. Meanwhile with Ranma, he was still chasing Ukyo across the schoolyard, both of them jumping from tree to tree. Ah-ha. I got ya. Ranma yelled as he grabbed Ukyo from behind, more specifically, he grabbed her chest. Be back off. Ukyo yelled, as she turned and slapped Ranma, as they both fell and crashed through the rooftop of a storage shed. Why you're a girl? Ranma yelled in surprise, as he stood up and rubbed the back of his head after their fall, as Ukyo glared at him while covering her chest. I'm glad you finally figured it out, cuz, Naruto said, as he opened the door to the shed. Wait, you knew that Yukin was a girl? Ranma asked in shock. Of course I knew. I'm actually observant, Naruto said with an eye roll. Why didn't you say anything? Ranma asked, as he and Ukyo walked out of the shed, while everyone else followed after them. Honestly? Cuz I wanted to see how long it would take you to figure it out and you didn't disappoint, Gah. Naruto was saying, before Ukyo smashed her spatula on his head. What? Did you and Nabiki have a bet going on for how long it would take me to realize or something? Ranma asked. Nah, though I did make a bet. Speaking of which, hey gold digger. Pay up. Naruto yelled as he looked at Nabiki, who was walking towards them. You knew she was a girl and made the bet, knowing Ranma wouldn't contribute to the fight, once he knew, Nabiki said, as she glared at Naruto, realizing that he had played her. Not so fun when you're scammed back, is it? Naruto asked with a grin at her. Nabiki growled at this, as fire filled her eyes, as she glared hard at Naruto. As this was happening, Akane dragged Genma over to Ranma and Ukyo by his ear. Ow, ow, ow. Come on, this isn't a way to treat an elder. Genma yelled out. Save it. Now, tell them the full story. Akane yelled, as she pushed Genma towards Ranma and Ukyo. Okay. Ranma, my boy, say hello to your fiancé. Genma said, as he pointed at Ukyo. Ranma yelled, as his eyes bugged out in shock. Yeah. It turns out Uncle Fat but here set up an arranged marriage between you and Ukyo, when you guys were kids and her family stand was the dowry, hence why he ran off with it, Naruto said with a sigh. And he was supposed to take me with you, on your training. But instead, he ditched me and left me behind to be mocked for being abandoned by my fiancé. Ukyo yelled, as she glared at Genma. Hey, Ranma shares some blame too. Genma yelled in a panic. How do I share the blame? This is all your fault. Ranma yelled. Well. Genma said, as he remembered how it all started. Flashback to when Ranma was 4. Genma was in a park, sitting in thought, while a child Ranma was sitting in his lap, happily eating some okonomiyaki. Ranma my boy, what do you like more? Ukyo or okonomiyaki? Genma asked his young son. I want okonomiyaki. Ranma said, as he swallowed his food and smiled, completely clueless to what his dad was thinking. Flashback end. Pow! I should take you to Auntie and have her gut you with a spoon, old man. Ranma yelled, as he slugged Genma into the dirt, while Ukyo smacked him on the head with her spatula, which did nothing, thanks to his tekai. Nice to know as a kid, your decision-making sucked, Akane said, as she gave Ranma a flat look. Oh, come on. You can't blame me for this. I was a kid, for crying out loud. Ranma yelled at Akane. Plus, he was being raised by a moron. So he's even responsible, Naruto said with a nod. Ukyo raised an eyebrow at Ranma and Akane, who were now arguing. Why don't you guys get along, she asked, as she knew that Ranma and Akane were finances to each other, thanks to the school's gossip mill. Yeah. Cute fiancé, meet tomboy fiancé, Ranma said with a sigh at this, as Ukyo took out a mini skillet and started to cook okonomiyaki. Akane growled at this, before she slugged Ranma in the head, sending him into the ground. See if I can help you anymore, she yelled, as she left the schoolyard. Next time, use Tekai cuz, Naruto said, as Ranma pulled himself out of the dirt. I did, Ranma said with a groan, as he held his head. Naruto blinked at this, before he chuckled, impressed with Akane's talent in strength. Ranma continued to rub his head, before he sensed something coming at him, which he quickly caught in his hand, before he saw what looked like a freshly made okonomiyaki, only this one had what looked like a heart drawn on it with the sauce. He asked, surprised at this. Let's forgive and forget, Ranma honey. Ukyo yelled with a happy smile at Ranma, before she ran off with a pep in her step. Ranma blinked in surprise at this, before he looked at the fresh okonomiyaki in his hands. And with that, another one is after you. I think that's about 4 girls now, Naruto said with a grin at his cousin. Yeah, while you have how many chasing after you? And where did you get 4 from? Ranma asked with a raised eyebrow. Hello? Akane, Ukyo, Oyuki and Naruto was saying, before he was cut off. Kodachi doesn't count. Ranma yelled in a rage, as he gained fangs, while he yelled at Naruto. Okay, calm down. Tell you what, let's drag Uncle Fat but to the restaurant and tell Auntie and my mom about this situation with Ukyo. And then maybe watch as they make him beg for mercy. Naruto said, as he pointed at the knocked-out Genma. Fine, Ranma grumbled, as he nodded at this, before he and Naruto grabbed Genma by his legs and dragged him off. A few days later. It was a few days later and Naruto was sitting in the rising tide, eating some ramen, as Kushina and Nodaka worked in the restaurant. I wonder why there aren't as many customers lately, Nodoka said, as she looked out from the kitchen and took note of the fact that they didn't have as many customers. You don't think they've gotten tired of the food here already? Naruto asked, as he looked around at the restaurant. Please. Who would get sick of my food? Kushina asked, as she scowled at this. Well, it's that or a more popular restaurant has opened, Minato said, as he entered the restaurant, holding up a flyer, which Naruto took. What? Kushina yelled out in anger, her hair starting to rise up while her eyes glowed red. It looks like Ukyo decided to open up an Okonomiyaki restaurant, Naruto said, as he looked at the flyer. Ah, the one dish that your mother stinks at, Nodaka said, as she nodded in understanding. Oi! My Okonomiyaki is perfectly fine. Kushina yelled. Oh, please. The last time you made that, the dough tried to attack you, Naruto said with a scoff. Kushina growled at this, as her hair started to rise into the air again. So who is this Ukyo, anyway? Minato asked, as he took note that Naruto obviously knew this person. She's Ranma's newest fiancée, Naruto said with a casual tone, as he drank a glass of juice. What did that idiot do this time? Nodoka yelled, as she pulled out a katana, fire in her eyes, after a few moments of silence. Yeah, what did Fat Butt do now? Kushina asked with a scowl at this, as she spun a sharp knife in her hand. Before Naruto could answer this, Ranma and Akane entered the restaurant. Hello, my favorite nephew, Kushina said, as she smiled at Ranma, as she looked at him with a piercing gaze, as he sat down. Hey auntie. Sorry we're late, we got held up, Ranma said. Oh, it's fine, sweetie. What kept you? Nodoka asked, as she looked at her son and his fiancée. Ranma and Akane went silent at this, as they looked at Naruto who was behind Kushina and Nodoka, pointing at Ukyo's flyer and making a killing gesture under his neck. Ranma said, as he tried to think of a good excuse. You being late wouldn't have anything to do with that sauce on your cheek, would it? Kushina asked with a hard tone, as she smiled kindly at her nephew. Naruto, Minato and Akane groaned at this, as Kushina's hair started to fly behind her. I surrender. Please, have mercy, Ranma yelled in a panic after a few moments of silence. Kushina, stop. Let's at least get an explanation on who this Ukyo is, before you do anything, Minato said, as he approached his wife to try and calm her down. Fine. Now, who is this Ukyo and what did Fat Butt do to make her a fiancée for Ranma? Kushina said as she looked at Naruto and Akane. Do you want the short version or the long version? Akane asked. Long version, please, Nodoka said, as she held her katana at the ready, causing the teens to sweat drop at this. One explanation later. The adults were all silent after the three teens explained what happened with Ukyo and Genma's involvement. So my husband set up a marriage with this young lady's father, ran off with the dowry and left her behind? Nodoka asked with a cold tone and look on her face. Yeah, pretty much. And after Ranma and Akane got into a fight in front of her, she now wants to be his fiancé, Naruto said with a snicker. Lum and Shampoo, Ranma said with an annoyed tone of voice. Naruto scowled at this and crossed his arms in a huff at being called out. Well, I guess I can't really blame her for wanting to set up shop in town, so she can be close to you. Nor can I blame you for supporting your friend, Kushina said with a sigh at this, as she ran her hand through her hair. So I'm off the hook? Ranma asked with a hopeful smile at this. Yeah. Just don't expect this to happen often, Kushina said, as she rolled her eyes at this. Ranma nodded at this, as he wasn't gonna argue with this. So, what are you two gonna do with the Fat Butt panda when you next see him? Naruto asked his aunt and mother curiously. Oh, we're gonna make him miserable, sweetie. But that's not important, right now. What is important is how we're gonna deal with Ukyo, Nodoka said, as she looked at her son. Hey cuz. Didn't you want to help me mstr the Rankyaku? Ranma yelled as he looked at Naruto, before he ran out of the restaurant. Yeah, sure. Let's go, Naruto said with a nod, as he ran after Ranma. Nice try sis, Kushina said, as she sighed at her sister's attempt to have her son pick a fiancé. Our son is no better, Kushi, Minato said, as he shook his head at his wife and sister-in-law's antics. Kushina nodded her head at this. True. I wish he'd pick one already, as I want grandbabies to spoil, she said. Yeah, well, he's not exactly on Nabiki's good side, after that scam he pulled on her, Akane said, as she shook her head, as Nabiki had been in a really bad mood lately, after Naruto had gotten one over on her with his bet on Ranma's fight with Ukyo. Wait, he actually got one over on her? Ha! Kushina asked, before she burst out laughing at this. Tendo Dojo. It was a regular Saturday at the Tendo Dojo and Naruto and Ranma were sparring a bit in the dojo for some exercise. As Naruto struck at Ranma with a shuriken, the pig-tailed Uzumaki blocked with his hand, and as he did this, he spotted Akane outside the dojo in the main hall of the house with a backpack along with Nabiki, Kasumi, Genma who was in his panda form and Son. Okay, I'm all set, Akane said with a smile, as she put her backpack down and looked at her sisters. Where are you heading, Akane? Ranma asked curiously, as he and Naruto left the dojo to see what was going on. She's heading to some hot springs with some friends for the weekend, Kasumi said, as she smiled. Make sure to bring back some souvenirs, Nabiki said to Akane, who nodded and rolled her eyes lightly. Why would you want to go to a place that's only popular with old crones? Ranma asked, raising an eyebrow at this. I like real hot water for a change, unlike you, Akane said, as she lightly smirked teasingly at Ranma, before she grabbed her backpack and headed for the door. Who cares if I have to use tea kettles? Ranma grumbled as he lightly blushed, before he paused, as he spotted a pipe sticking out of Akane's backpack, which caused him to scowl, before he grabbed the backpack, stopping Akane. What is it? Akane asked, looking at him curiously. Maybe he wants to go with you, Naruto said with a grin. I approve. This would be a great way for you two to bond, Son said with a nod, as he smiled at this. Akane blushed at this, before she quickly composed herself. Oh please, Ranma said, as he turned Akane's backpack over and shook it a bit, which caused Happosai to fall out of it. Ah! Kill it! Naruto yelled, as he grabbed a broom and whacked it on Happosai's head. Oh, stop, here, use this instead, Nabiki said as she rolled her eyes, before she handed Naruto a wooden bakken. Naruto blinked at this, before he smiled and grabbed the bakken and raised it to hit the old man. I can't believe that I didn't notice him, Akane said, as she frowned at this. Will you stop? I just wanted to go for a therapeutic soak. Happosai yelled, as Naruto smacked the old man. Don't you mean peep on girls, you dirty pervert? Akane asked with a glare. And besides, you will be dead before it gets any worse, Ranma said with sarcasm lacing his tone. Happosai growls at this and goes to yell at Ranma, but the pigtailed teen just slammed Akane's bag on him, before he grabbed the old man and reached into his shirt, before pulling out what looked like a BR. Is this supposed to be more therapy? Ranma asked with a flat tone. That's mine. Give it back. Happosai yelled, as he tried to get put from underneath Akane's bag. That's mine, you old freak. Thanks, Ranma, Akane yelled, as she snatched the BR from Ranma and yelled at Happosai, before she thanked the pigtailed teen. Does he get a kiss for saving you from, oof? Naruto was asking with a smirk, before he hunched over, as Akane slugged him in the gut, before she grabbed her bag and left, while Ranma kept Happosai under his foot. Let me go. I want to go with her. It's not fair. Happosai yelled, as he struggled to get loose, while throwing a tantrum. What are you, 5? Nabiki asked, scoffing at this display from the old man. I'm getting my belt, that boy ain't right Naruto said, as he stood up while doing a southern accent. Nabiki snorted at this, as she covered her mouth at this. As this was happening, Happosai had gotten loose from under Ranma's foot and was making a beeline for the door, to follow Akane. But he was quickly grabbed by Ranma, who dragged him back by the back of his shirt. Come on, let's string him up and beat the candy out of him, Naruto said with a smirk, as Ranma took out some rope and started to tie him up. Do we hang him by his feet or his arms? Nabiki asked with a grin. That's so hot, hey, he's getting loose. Naruto was saying without thinking, before he saw Happosai running off and making a beeline upstairs. Quick, after him. Ranma yelled, as he led the way upstairs, along with Genma, Son and Naruto. Wow, you two are getting along so well, Kasumi said with a happy smile at Nabiki. Oh, please. I find him amusing at best, Nabiki said, as she scoffed at this. Really? 'Cause I don't recall you laughing so much before Naruto arrived, Kasumi said, as she thought about the past. Nabiki blushed lightly at this, but before she could retort to this, the ceiling burst, as Happosai dropped down from below after being smashed into the ground by Genma's sign, which said, repent, on it. Take this, piñata. Naruto yelled out, as he dropped down from above and swung his fist down at the old man, who promptly blocked his fist with his pipe and smirked at Naruto. Ah hell, Naruto said with a groan, before he yelled, as he was sent flying into Nabiki, sending them both to the ground. Okay, I'm gonna dash, Naruto was saying, before he realized he was on top of Nabiki, and his hands were on her chest. Whiskers, you owe me 20,000 yen for touching my chest, Nabiki said with a cold tone, as she looked at Naruto. Gah! Naruto yelled, as he shot to his feet, blushing in embarrassment. Ahahaha. Freedom! Happosai yelled as he ran towards the door, but paused, as he spotted a door nearby, which had a sign on it that said, Girls' Dressing Room, which after seeing this, he made a beeline for and opened it. Which resulted in Ranma in his girl form attacking him with a frying pan, which clanged as it hit his head. Eek! A pervert! Ranma yelled dramatically, before she laughed and started to beat up the old man. Worth it, Happosai groaned in pain, as a lump appeared on his head. You definitely have some of the Uzumaki mischievous streak, if you're willing to play dirty like that cuz, Naruto said with a chuckle, as he was impressed that Ranma had gotten one over on the old man so easily. Let's finish him off. Son yelled, as he and Genma ran over and started to beat up Happosai with what looked like bokkens. But after a few moments, they heard a crack and stopped, seeing that they had destroyed what looked like a plastic pail, which was filled with bath toys. You morons destroyed my pail. Happosai yelled out, as he announced his presence behind the adult and Panda, making them yell in surprise, as they grabbed hold of each other. What are you, 5? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow, seeing the bath toys and broken pail. Mentally probably, Nabiki said with a shrug, causing Naruto to laugh at this. That's it. Prepare to face my ultimate technique. The technique I sealed away for the good of mankind. Happosai yelled, as he waved his arms dramatically. No MSTR, please not that. Son yelled, as Genma's fur went white from terror. What technique is it? Ranma asked curiously. My money is on it being something stupid, Naruto said with a flat tone, as he was not scared at all of the old man. Happo fire burst. Happosai yelled, as he moved his palms forward, and made a small whiff of ki, which slowly flew at Ranma and Naruto. Ranma raised an eyebrow at this, before she blew the fire out. Wow, and I thought that running away from Uncle Fat but was pathetic, Naruto said with a flat tone of voice. Oh, Genma's sign said, as the panda held it up, a scowl on his face. I wonder what went wrong. I must have forgotten how to use it, Happosai said, as he crossed his arms and thought to himself. Before Ranma kicked him hard out the window, sending him flying into the air. Later. A little later, Ranma and Genma were back in their regular forms and were in the living room with the others, as they all had some tea, while they waited for lunch from Kasumi. "You boys have no idea how close we all were to death," Son said with a serious tone of voice, as he held his cup of tea. "Indeed. When the MSTR says the ultimate technique, he means it, as the Happo fire burst is capable of blowing us all up," Genma said with his own firm tone. "I'm gonna guess. You two morons have experience getting attacked by this great technique?" Naruto asked, as he drank his tea. "Indeed. Years ago, during one of the master's regular raids, the village woman he was borrowing undergarments from, tricked him into getting into the path of an oncoming boulder and he used the technique to blow it up and disintegrate it," Son said, as he reminisced about the past. "Borrowing undergarments my butt," Ranma muttered under his breath, before he drank some of his tea. "He also destroyed what undergarments he stole and after that, he sealed away the scroll, which contained the secret of the technique," Genma said with a nod. "Ah-ha. I heard that. Now I remember where I left that scroll," Happosai yelled, as he dropped down from the ceiling onto the table and ran out of the room through the back door. This resulted in Son and Genma to panic, complete with them clucking like chickens while walking around like them. "Okay, wow," Naruto said, as he didn't expect this level of cowardice from the two adults. "You think your mom will pay for this footage?" Nabiki asked as she held up her phone, which she was using to record the two adults. "Will you two man up? You know where the scroll is, right? We can get it before him and learn the secret." Ranma yelled at the two adults. "Let's go," the two adults yelled, as they quickly ran out of the room to go pack. "We're not actually going to help them learn that old freak's technique, are we?" Naruto asked Ranma, as he followed his cousin to get ready to leave. "Hey, better to learn how this technique works, over letting him get it and then attacking us unprepared," Ranma said, as he shrugged. "Ah, fair enough. But knowing the old freak, this will probably be more trouble than it's worth," Naruto said with a sigh as they left. Nabiki shook her head at this, as she sat down and turned on the TV and after a few moments, her phone rang, which she answered. "Hey Nabiki, where is the brat?" "Lum and Shampoo are getting antsy looking for him," Kushina said, as some chaos was heard in the background. "Oh, he and Ranma are off to stop some old man from learning an ultimate technique called Happo Fire Burst," Nabiki said, as she placed her feet on the footrest. "Ultimate technique? Ha!" Kushina asked, before she started to laugh madly. "You know it?" Nabiki asked, raising an eyebrow at this. As Kushina explained what she knew about the technique, Nabiki started to smile before she began to laugh with Kushina. Meanwhile, Kasumi had entered the room with lunch and was looking around, wondering where everyone else was. Later with Naruto. It was now night time and the pair of teens and adults were now in the forests of Japan. The two adults were trying to retrace their steps from their past, so they could find where the scroll was, before Happosai could. "So, where is the scroll for this supposed ultimate technique hidden?" Naruto asked the two adults. "Yeah, are you two even sure you're leading us the right way?" Ranma asked, as they approached what looked like a cliffside. "We should be close, soon if my memory is right," Genma said, as he looked around a bit. "We are so gonna run into Ryoga," Naruto grumbled under his breath. Ranma snorted at this, while he fist-bumped with Naruto at his joke. "Now, from what I recall, the scroll was sealed under a boulder, which was in a hot spring," Son said, as they approached a cliff, which had some steam coming up from below. "A hot spring? Well, we are on the right track then," Genma said with a smile, as he approached the cliff to take a look. As they approached, they heard what sounded like people down in the hot spring, causing them to pause in surprise. "Why do I have a feeling this is gonna go really bad, really fast?" Naruto asked, as they all squatted and approached the cliffside. After a while the steam cleared showing Akane, Shampoo, Benton, Oyuki and Ukyo down in the hot springs, along with some other girls their own age. "Look, there's the boulder." Son whispered to them, as he pointed at said boulder, which was indeed in the middle of the hot spring on an elevated piece of earth. And I'm out, Naruto said, as he started to back away from the cliff. Before Ranma grabbed him by the back of his shirt, stopping him. Hold on, cuz. We need to get the scroll before that old freak does, Ranma whispered. Is there a way to do it that doesn't involve entering the belly of the beast? Naruto whispered, as he knew them, even attempting to try and sneak into the hot springs, while the girls were bathing, was asking for pain. Hey, what if I turned into my panda form and then you guys paint me to look like a polar bear, to scare them away? Genma asked, as he smiled as an idea hit him. Great idea, Uncle, Naruto said with a smile, as he gave a thumbs up at this. Finally, some respect, Genma said, as Son poured some water on him, turning him into a panda, before he started to paint him with white paint. You know, this might actually work. I'm surprised that Pops thought of it, Ranma said, as Genma started to approach the hot springs. Wait for it, Naruto said with a knowing smirk, holding his finger up. Moments later, they heard yelling from the hot springs, before the sounds of fighting was heard and Genma yelling in pain was heard. Before Genma was thrown back over to them, with Shampoo's club embedded in his head, Ukyo's small spatulas in his side, sparking from being shocked, some ice on him and covered in bruises. Two things, Uncle Fat, but, 1, polar bears don't hunt in Japan, and 2, even if they did, you're trying to scare girls who could make a street punk turn himself in after 5 minutes with them, Naruto whispered with a snicker. Hey, who's there? Akane was heard yelling from inside the hot springs. Nobody here but us chickens, Ranma said, referring to Son and Genma. As the two adults glared at the two smirking teens, down in the hot springs, Genma's backpack shook a bit, before Happosai, dressed in a monkey suit, jumped out and made his way into the hot spring. Let the MSTR show you how it's done. Happosai said as he jumped down. Do you think he even knew where the scroll was hidden, or he just pretended he did and had them find it for him? Naruto asked Ranma with a flat tone, while pointing at Son and Genma, who started to panic and act like chickens again. Ranma ignored this, as he poured a bottle of water on himself, turning himself into his girl form and stood up. Eek! A pervert is in the hot spring. Ranma yelled with an exaggerated girl voice. Where? The teen girls all yelled, as they all started to look around. I think I saw him dressed as a monkey, Ranma yelled out, before he hit himself again. After a few moments of silence. Ayaya. It old gremlin. Shampoo yelled out, as she spotted Happosai making his way towards the boulder. Happosai, it's time to meet your maker, Akane's voice growled out, as she made her way towards the old man. You little freak. I'll rip you in half. Benton yelled, as she grabbed a way bigger boulder and easily raised it over her head, before she threw it at the old man. Whoa! Are you sure that one is a girl? Happosai yelled, as he quickly dodged to the side, avoiding the thrown rock. Hold still, you little freak. Benton yelled in a rage, as she grabbed another boulder. I have him. Oyuki yelled, as she sent some ice at Happosai, trying to trap him. Oi! No fair! Happosai yelled, as the ice grabbed his legs, as the girls pounced on him and started to attack him. As this was happening, Naruto and Ranma used Sora to quickly appear behind the boulder the scroll was hidden under. Okay, let's see, Ranma said, as he started to dig under the boulder. Make it quick, they won't take long to beat the hell out of that freak, Naruto whispered, as he peeked over the boulder and saw that the girls were still beating the heck out of Happosai, before Akane punted him out of the hot spring. Got it. Ranma said, as he pulled a scroll out from under the boulder. Good, now let's get out of here, Naruto said, as he looked at Ranma. Who said that? Ukyo asked. That sounded like my darling. Lum yelled happily. Cheese it. Naruto yelled, as he took off into the sky using his Jeppo to get out of the hot spring. Ranma quickly took off after Naruto, making sure not to drop the scroll. I know that red hair. You're dead, Ranma. Akane yelled. They are perverts. Ha, who knew, Benton said with a smirk at this. Wait, why aren't you angry? They could have peeped on us, Akane asked with a raised eyebrow. Hey, Naruto peeping on me means he's interested, which gives me hope, Benton said with a grin at this. Say what? Lum yelled, as her hair started to spark. Love rival. Shampoo yelled out, as she tackled Benton into the water, starting a fight with the alien woman. Naruto's lovers need to learn to get along like we do. Don't they, Akane? Oyuki asked, as Shampoo, Lum and Benton started to fight each other. Yeah, hey, wait a minute. Akane was saying, before she yelled, realizing what her friend had said. Later with Naruto. After fleeing the hot springs, Naruto and Ranma had been able to meet back up with Genma and Son in a forest near what looked like a nearby inn. Were you able to get it? Son asked curiously. Yeah, and we got spotted by the girls, so this better be worth it, Pops, Ranma said, as Naruto tossed them the scroll, which Son caught. The two adults happily opened the scroll, happy to finally learn the secret of their MSTR's most dangerous technique, and the two teens peeked over their shoulders to take a look, only. Oh, for crying out loud. Naruto yelled, as he saw that the scroll's handwriting was pretty much the equivalent of chicken scratch. Great. So we hiked all the way out here and now I'm on Akane's hit list for nothing, Ranma said with a groan, as he slapped his forehead. We're not giving up yet. Genma yelled out. Yes. If we capture the MSTR, then we can have him translate the scroll for us, Son said with a smile. What's with this wee stuff? Do you have a mouse in your pocket? Naruto asked, as he raised an eyebrow at this, as he was not ready to do more for the two adults, seeing as they weren't really helping so far. And what makes you think he'll do that? Ranma asked them. Yeah, he might just read it then attack you, Naruto said, as he nodded at this. This got silence from Genma and Son, before they started to yell and panic again, complete with acting like chickens. That's it. I'm getting out the 11 herbs and spices, Naruto said, as he had reached the end of his tolerance. Let's just go rest. Thankfully, there is an inn nearby. Come on Pops, Mr. Tendo, Ranma said, as he looked at the two adults, who were finally calming down. Yeah, I'm starving. So you better buy us some dinner after what you put us through, Naruto said with an annoyed tone, as they walked towards the inn nearby. But I don't have any money on me, Genma said in a panic. Me neither, Son said, as he didn't think to grab his wallet, before they left. Fine, I'll spot you. But I expect you to pay me back, Naruto said, as they entered the hotel. Of course son, Son said, as he nodded at this. At 25% interest, Naruto said with a smirk. Gah! Son and Genma yelled at this, feeling their wallets hurt at this. You know, I think that Nabiki is rubbing off on you cuz, Ranma said with a smirk. Watch your back, Akane is behind you, Naruto said with a casual tone. Oh yeah, like I'm gonna fall for the oldest dash, Ranma was saying with a laugh. Pow! Before Akane, who had entered the inn behind them, had spotted them and made a beeline for them and slugged Ranma, sending her into the floor. You demented pervert. I thought you were better than that. Akane yelled, as she glared at Ranma. Who are you calling a pervert? Ranma groaned, as she struggled to her feet after Akane's attack. You and your moronic cousin snuck into the hot springs. Akane yelled. Oi! Do I insult you? Hey! Naruto yelled at Akane, before he was hugged from behind by Lum. I found you darling. Why did you run? We could have bathed together, Lum asked with a happy smile, as she rubbed her cheek against his. Oh yeah, like I need the headache, Naruto said with a groan, as he knew doing that would result in more headaches than anything good. What you do here, Naruto? Shampoo asked as she, Benton, Ukyo and Oyuki entered the inn. We came here to find a scroll the old freak had hidden underneath a boulder in the hot springs, Ranma said, as they approached the check-in desk. Akane paused at this and after thinking about what had happened back at the hot springs, she lightly frowned and cursed herself. did you find it? You can never go wrong with new techniques, Benton said with a grin at this. Yeah, we found it, but it's written in gibberish, Naruto said, as he showed them the scroll. So we need to think up a plan to capture the freak and make him translate it, preferably without him attacking us after reading it, Ranma said. And don't you two morons start. Naruto yelled at Genma and Son, who started to panic again, but stopped before they could start acting like chickens again. Well, that freak likes pretty girls, right? Benton asked, raising an eyebrow at Naruto. Yeah, he's a freak. So what? Naruto asked, as he looked at the alien girl. Heh, so I have a plan to lure him into a trap, Benton said with a confident smirk. This caused Naruto to pause seeing this. Why am I both scared and intrigued when she does that, he thought to himself, as he lightly blushed. As the group got checked into the inn for the night, outside sitting in a tree branch was Happosai, who was watching them from afar. DMN, brats. Now I have to figure out a way to steal my scroll from them. Luckily, that Uzumaki brat doesn't have his mom's talent, so he won't be a problem, he grumbled under his breath, as he attempted to make a plan for tomorrow. With Naruto. It was the next morning in Akane, Ranma in his girl form, Benton and Oyuki were at the tennis court that was near the inn and playing a game of 2-on-2 tennis. More specifically, they were playing tennis while wearing uniforms that included skirts to try and lure Happosai out of hiding, while Naruto and the others were hiding in some bushes nearby, waiting to jump the old man when he showed up. I feel ridiculous, Ranma said, as she readied her racket, as Benton and Oyuki prepared to serve the ball. Hey, you volunteered to help Benton with her plan, Akane whispered, as she sent the ball flying. Yeah, but this is just degrading. How do you girls put up with skirts? Ranma said, as she took a swing at the ball. Oh, quit your whining Sotome. Now look alive. Benton yelled, as she hit the ball hard with her racket, sending it flying into the air towards Ranma. Ranma quickly jumped into the air and took a swing at the ball, more specifically, she made her skirt fly a bit from her jump. Woo-hoo! Happosai yelled, as he jumped out of the bush he was hiding in and ran towards the field after seeing this. But before he could even get close. Pow! Shampoo's ball club flew out of a nearby treetop and nailed him in the side of the head. And as he fell to the ground, a blast of lightning struck him from the sky. Gaha! Happosai yelled, as he was electrocuted. Nice swing Shampoo, Naruto said with a grin as he, Shampoo, Ukyo and Lum came out of their hiding spots, while Son and Genma in his panda form came out from hiding in a pair of trash cans. What about me, darling? I made sure he stayed down, Lum said as she pouted lightly, as they approached Happosai, who was charred black and twitching slightly. Okay, you old freak, time for you to talk, before I decide to find out if I have Auntie's evil streak, Ranma yelled out, as she grabbed the old man by the back of his shirt. How dare you treat your elders this way? Happosai yelled, as he looked at the gathered teens. Elders we respect. Refugees from murder, not so much, Naruto said with a scoff. Now, it's time for you to talk, old man, Benton said, as she held out the scroll. And don't think you can attack us after reading it. Oyuki? Ranma said, before she looked at the ice alien. Of course, dear Ranma, Oyuki said with a smile, as she nodded at this, before she grabbed the old man and encased his entire body, besides his face in ice. SSOCCC cold. Happosai stuttered out as he shivered. You want us to thaw you out now? Then get reading, Benton said with a smirk, as she shoved the open scroll into the old man's face. Naruto slightly chuckled as he watched this. Okay, so she's a bit like Mom. At least she's not scary like her though, he thought. I'm not telling you, ga. Happosai was saying, before Benton grabbed him by his face. Talk, before I have Oyuki cover your mouth and nose slowly. Benton yelled, as she bared her fangs at the old pervert. Never mind, Naruto thought, as he slightly shuddered seeing this. Okay, I'll talk. Happosai yelled through his squished face. Good boy, Benton said, as she patted his cheek slightly, before holding the scroll up for him to read. Finally, we will know the secret of the Happo fire burst, Son said, as he danced around happily. The nightmare is over, Genma's sign said, as he too danced around. And we have our future son-in-laws to thank, Son said with a smile at Naruto and Ranma. I still expect to be reimbursed for the bill, Naruto said, as he held up a bill. Ah yes, of course, who touched the hotel fridge? Son said as he took the bill, before he took one look at it and his eyes bulged out of his head, before he shouted at the teens. Iron say hotel snacks taste good when sucker pay, Shampoo said with a smile. Darling knows how I am with chocolate and couldn't say no when I asked, Lum said with a smile. I let you have it, so that you would leave me alone, while I bathed, Naruto said with a flat tone of voice. Sorry Dad, Akane said, as she sweat-dropped seeing her father crying over the bill. Well old man. Let's have it. Ranma yelled, as she held up the frozen pervert. I can't read my own handwriting, Happosai said with a shocked look, as he looked at the scroll. This resulted in everyone, but Ranma, falling over in shock. Ranma's eyebrow twitched violently at this, before. Pow! She drop-kicked the old man, sending him flying like a shooting star and sending shards of ice flying. You better be kidding me. I dressed up like this for nothing. Ranma yelled, as she stomped on the ground in a rage. Well, you do make a cute tennis player, Naruto said with a snicker. Go to hell. Ranma yelled, as she glared at her cousin, obviously not in the mood for his jokes. So, what do we do now? Oyuki asked everyone curiously. I say we pack up and head home, Akane said, as she handed Ranma a hot kettle of water and her boy clothes, so that she could change. Me too, as I need to get back to my restaurant, Ukyo said, as she nodded at this. That's the best idea I have heard all day, Naruto said, as he tore up the scroll and threw the pieces in the air. What are you doing? What if there was an actual technique in that? Son yelled, while Genma made a surprised face, before they both started to run around, scrambling to grab the pieces of the scroll. Oh, get over it, old man, a now male Ranma yelled, after he had switched both his clothes and form. So how are we getting home? Naruto asked Ranma, as he and the other teens started to walk away from the two adults, who were still grabbing the ripped pieces of the scroll and trying to see how they're put together. I guess we are walking home, seeing as that's how we got here, Ranma said with a sigh. You walked here, Ranma dear? Oyuki asked curiously. What, you expected Uncle Fat but to pay? Naruto asked with a scoff. You know Ranma dear, if you wish, I can pay for you to ride the bus with us, Oyuki said, as she looked at Ranma with a slight mischievous look in her eyes. Naruto raised an eyebrow at this, as he recognized this look, when Nabiki was pulling one of her scams. Really? Ranma asked with a smile at the ice woman. Of course, my dear Ranma, Oyuki said with a smile. Wow, I didn't expect Oyuki to be so nice, Akane said with a look of surprise. Wait for it, Benton said with a slight smirk, while Lum chuckled nervously. You will just owe me a favor, Oyuki said, as she continued to smile. I knew it, just like the gold digger, Naruto said with a shake of his head, as she was just like Nabiki. Oh, come on. She won't be giving me the business, like Nabiki does you, Ranma said with a wave of his hand. Thank you, dear Ranma. Now, as for your payment, all I require of you is that you take me out on a date, Oyuki said with a smile. Gah! Ranma yelled, as he face planted into the dirt at this. Oh yeah, she's definitely not like Nabiki, Akane said with a sarcastic tone of voice, as she could definitely see the resemblance. Yeah, she's worse. At least Nabiki has some standards, Naruto said with a groan at Oyuki, pretty much blackmailing Ranma into a date. Oh. So you do see some good in my sister, Akane said, as she raised her eyebrow inquisitively at the blonde, before she lightly smirked seeing him freeze. Seeing this, Shampoo, and Benton both turned to glare at Naruto lightly. Naruto chuckled nervously at this, but before he could respond. Boom! A massive explosion went off behind them, where they had left Son and Genma. What set off Big Boom? Shampoo asked, as they all looked behind them. Dad! Akane yelled, as she quickly ran over to the new crater, where the smoking and groaning Son and Genma were. Hey Pops, who kicked your butt? Ranma asked, as he approached the panda. The wrath of destiny visits yet again, Genma's sign said, as he shook in pain. Pfft! Naruto snorted in laughter reading this, before he went silent, as Akane gave him a glare. We are doomed, Son groaned, as he pointed shakingly at Happosai, who was now standing across from them with his palms in a throwing motion. Heh, I should thank you, Ranma. The hit to my head finally made me remember my ultimate technique. Happosai yelled with a grin, as he struck a victory pose. This caused the teens to look at the old man in surprise, before they stood at the ready. Nice job, Ranma, Akane said with a scowl hearing this, as she grabbed her tennis racket, as that was the only weapon she had on hand. Hey, how was I supposed to know that would happen? Ranma yelled. Yeah, who knew that cartoon logic would actually work? Naruto asked, as he readied himself for battle. Focus! Benton yelled at Naruto in a rage. Yes, Ka-san, I mean, Benton. Naruto yelled, as he quickly looked at Happosai. This resulted in Benton and Shampoo to face-plant hearing this. Meanwhile, Ranma and the other girls covered their mouths at hearing this, as they tried in vain to contain their laughter. Enough of this. Prepare to feel the wrath of the ultimate technique of the School of Anything Goes martial arts. Happosai yelled, as he reared his arms back, before he pulled what looked like a round firecracker out of his pocket. Please tell me he's kidding, Ranma said, as he blinked in surprise at this. Actually, with Uncle Fat Ass's runaway technique, this actually tracks, Naruto said, as he shook his head. Mock this, you brats. Happo fire burst. Happosai yelled, as jumped high into the air, before he threw the lit firecracker at the teens. But before it could hit them, Akane just casually swatted it with her tennis racket, sending it back at the old man. Happosai yelled in surprise, as his eyes bugged out at this, before. Boom! The firecracker exploded, engulfing him in a large explosion, making the air send the teens flying back a bit, before a few moments passed and they saw that Happosai was now on the ground, burned and twitching on the ground. Ya. This too sad, yes? Shampoo asked, as she looked at the others. Yeah, I didn't think it could be any more sad than your running away move, Pops, Ranma said, as he helped Genma to his feet. Who are you calling sad, Genma's sign yelled, as he growled at his son. Come on, let's just go home, Ukyo said with a sigh at this. Yeah, our bus should be leaving soon, so we should get moving, Oyuki said, as she nodded in agreement. Oh, and your tickets are going on your bill, FYI, Naruto said to Son, who started to weep in despair at this, as they all started to walk away from Happosai. Who started to twitch, as he forced himself up to his feet, as he got up and glared at the group. This isn't over, you brats. I am nowhere near done. Happosai thought, as he made a new plan of attack. A little later. The group was now walking down the hilltop, which would lead them to the bus station. Okay, we should be able to get home by tonight, if we can make the next bus, Akane said, as she looked up from her phone. Good, 'cause I am starving for some of Auntie's food, Ranma said, as he held his stomach. There's a gift shop too, so I can pick up something for Naruto was saying, before he stopped, as he saw that Shampoo, and Benton were glaring daggers at him. Pick up something for who, darling? Asked, as her hair sparked with electricity. You not be getting gift for gold digger, Iron, Shampoo said, as she cracked her knuckles, as she thought about Nabiki. That weakling thinks she can stay behind and get a gift. Benton asked, before she scoffed and crossed her arms. Just relax, I'm getting gifts from my parents, Naruto said, as he walked towards the gift shop. Nabiki loves hot springs bath salts, Akane said with a knowing grin at Naruto, while Ranma snickered and fist bumped with her. Naruto's eyebrow twitched at this, before he turned around to yell at his cousin and his fiancée. But he paused, as he spotted something behind them up the hill. The thing in question was what looked like a giant firecracker, the size of a boulder, rolling down the hill towards them. Get out of the way! Naruto yelled, as he quickly used Geppo to take off into the air. What are you talking, what the hell? Benton was asking, as she turned around, before she yelled in surprise, seeing the incoming firecracker, before she quickly ran out of the way, grabbing Oyuki's hand and pulled her out of the way. Whole Ukyo and Shampoo ran out of the way. We're gonna die, Genma's sign yelled out, with a look of terror in his eyes, as he and Son yelled in terror. Run, you idiots! Ranma yelled, as he too used Geppo after scooping up Akane into his arms to carry her out of the way. Don't bother. This one will easily hit you, before you can get far enough away. Happosai yelled with a laugh, as he ran on top of the firecracker towards the bottom of the hill, where they all were. We need a way to stop that thing. Ukyo yelled out. What we need is a way to get rid of that thing. Naruto yelled, as he hovered in the air a bit, as he racked his brain a bit. Oh. I've got it. Lum said, as she thought to herself, before she snapped her fingers and smiled, before she reached into her handbag, and after a few moments, she pulled out what looked like a folded door, which she threw towards the giant firecracker. As the folded door went into the path of the firecracker, it stopped in mid-air and unfolded into what looked like a door, before it opened up and started to SCK the firecracker towards it. Everyone, take cover! Lum yelled, as she flew behind some trees, while Benton and Oyuki grabbed Ukyo and Akane and dragged them behind some trees. What magic this? Shampoo asked with wide eyes, as she took cover, along with Son and Genma. It's a doorway I made for emergencies. Lum yelled, as she hung on to a tree branch, as the door attempted to SCK up everything around them. Where do you get this stuff? Naruto yelled, as he quickly used Geppo to make his way to a nearby tree branch and grabbed it, so that he wouldn't be sucked in. As the giant firecracker was sucked into the doorway, Happosai yelled in a panic, as he too was sucked towards the doorway, before he grabbed onto a nearby sign. Help me! Happosai yelled in a panic, as he held onto the sign for dear life. Naruto and Ranma both hesitated at this, before they both looked at each other and nodded, before Naruto used Geppo to propel himself towards the old man, while Ranma kept Akane safe. Darling? Lum yelled in a panic seeing this. Shut it off, Lum! Benton yelled, as she held on to the tree she was hiding behind. Lum quickly flew after Naruto, and as he approached Happosai and grabbed him, she charged up some lightning and threw it at the doorway, and when the lightning hit the door, it started to slowly stop sucking and soon it stopped altogether. Is everyone okay? Ranma asked, as he and Akane came out from behind the tree. We're all okay, Son said, as he stepped out from his tree, along with Genma, who nodded. Glad to see everyone is okay, now get off me, you old freak. Naruto said, as he stood up with a smile, before he yelled with a scowl, as he struggled to get Happosai off him. You saved me. You actually care. Happosai yelled, as tears flowed from his eyes as he hugged Naruto tight, before. Pow! Die, wrinkly man! Shampoo yelled, as she slammed her club into the old man's head, sending him into the dirt. Thanks Shampoo, Naruto said with a shudder, as he nodded at the Amazon. Where did you even send that thing, Lum? Akane asked Lum, as the Oni girl approached her doorway. Meanwhile, in what looked like a massive wasteland, what looked like a small battalion of robots that seemed to be themed after insects were approaching what looked like the front gates of what looked like a village, where what looked like a giant medieval-looking castle stood in the back of the village, where a bunch of male guards with greenish skin with battle axes and spears were getting ready to attempt to fight back against the approaching army. But before the insect robots could attack the gates, a portal opened up in the sky above them and the giant firecracker dropped down on the battalion, and when it landed on top of them, boom! The firecracker exploded, engulfing the battalion of insect-themed robots in a massive explosion and sending parts flying, surprising the inhabitants of the base. Back with Naruto. No idea, as I haven't used this thing until today, Lum said with a shrug, as she went to turn off the doorway. But as she turned it off and it started to power down, what looked like a letter flew out of the doorway, which Naruto caught. Naruto said, as he read the letter and raised his eyebrow. What's it say? Ranma asked, as he approached his cousin and looked over his shoulder at the letter. Thanks for the assist, those guys got the drop on us. We owe you one. Signed, The Resistance of the Void, Naruto read, as he looked at the letter, which had a chibi sketching of what looked like Naruto on the bottom. The Void? Akane asked, as they all looked at Lum, as she was the one who had made the doorway. I've got no idea what it is. It must be the name of some other dimension, Lum said, as she shook her head, as she folded up the doorway and put it away in her purse. Well, now that the old freak and his final attack is dealt with, let's head home after we take a look at the gift shop, Ranma said as he looked at the group, as he jerked a thumb at the knocked-out Happosai. The group nodded at this, as they all entered the bus station/gift shop, leaving the knocked-out Happosai in the crater Shampoo had left him in. Later back at the Tendos. The sun was now setting as Ranma, Akane, Son and Genma walked into the Tendo house. Welcome home everyone. You're just in time for dinner, Kasumi said, as she came out of the kitchen with a smile to greet them. Thanks sis, Akane said with a smile, as she took off her backpack and coat. Yeah, I'm starving, hey. Don't eat my food, Pops. Ranma was saying, before he spotted Genma running into the dining room, along with Son in a rush to eat. You snooze, you lose, gah. Genma was saying, as he started to eat from Ranma's plate, before his son tackled him and started a fight. Hey, did you bring any souvenirs? Nabiki asked Akane, as she came downstairs for dinner. Didn't get the chance to, as the old pervert attacked us with fireworks and we just wanted to get home after beating him up, Akane said, as she shook her head at this. Yeah, from what I heard, the old man's technique, while stupid, is pretty high in collateral damage, Nabiki said with a frown, as she put her hands behind her head and mentally cursed the old man for causing her to miss out on a souvenir. Yeah, it was pretty stupid. But don't worry, Naruto gave me something for, wait a minute, you knew about his technique? Akane said, as she looked through her backpack, before she looked at her sister in surprise at her knowing about Happosai's technique. Miss Kushina told me about it. What's this about something from Naruto? Nabiki said, as she waved her hand dismissively. Oh, right. He insisted on getting you something, before we left so here, Akane said, as she took out a bag of hot spring bath salts, which looked to be very well made. Nabiki blinked in surprise at this, before she smiled as she took the gift, as she didn't expect Naruto to get her this, especially the expensive kind which these were. Is that an actual smile, sis? Akane asked with a raised eyebrow and a slight smile at her sister. Your fiancé is choking, Mrs. Satome, Nabiki said with a flat tone of voice, as she pointed inside the dining room. Ranma, for crying out loud, there is more food. Akane yelled, as she went into the dining room, leaving Nabiki alone for a moment, before Kasumi approached her from behind. Were you actually smiling? Kasumi asked, as she came out of the kitchen, drying her hands. Maybe, Nabiki said with a firm tone, as she walked past Kasumi to go into the dining room. Kasumi paused at this, before she smiled a little, happy that her sister was actually starting to change for the better. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for more crossovers. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author KFB Anime 87 on fanfiction.net. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video, till then goodbye.